What is guys, this is with a brand new episode of Zombolics. Now, as you guys, I'm doing face cam or anything, but this episode of The Walking Dead was absolutely insane. I just want to let you guys know, spoilers or anything for, this episode, and all of Season 8 and possibly the comics. This episode is absolutely insane or anything because, it showed, a lot of, emotion and, everything that, it basically concluded the rest of, all the 8 seasons and everything. Now, greatly, Rick did not die and everything, but we did have a lot of flashbacks with Carl and everything, which I thought was just really weird because, well, it's not weird, but, I thought it was really, great to have, flashbacks and emotional moments and everything, because, it kind of gave you that remembering of, Carl and everything. It made you, what you want is for, a character, when they have, a death and everything, you want to be able to remember them for, as long as you possibly can. That's what they did with Carl. They had tons of flashbacks throughout this episode and tons of different moments, which I thought was really good and everything, because, like I said, it kept, you remembering, okay, yep, this character was, such a freaking amazing character and anything. It kept bringing back the heartwarming moments. And actually, what I want to jump to talk about, actually, is the battle at the hill. Not the hilltop, we'll get to that in a bit, but the battle at the hill. So as you guys know, in last, sneak peek or, Zombolics episode or anything, I talked about how Dwight delivered the wrong plans to Rick. So when Rick and all of his, colleagues and, teammates and, I don't know, if that's the right word or anything, but when all of them were going up, the hill, they started hearing sirens and all of that other stuff from, Negan and his men and everything, and Negan started talking, saying, hey, we're cleaning house, and obviously Rick was, worried and anything, because then Negan said, he basically said that, oh, wherever you go and anything, we have you surrounded from, everywhere, which I thought, at first I was okay, I thought he knew it was a trick, because later, early in the episode, I think he said, oh, yeah, it's definitely a trap, but, then they still ended up getting, surrounded and everything. And we saw Dwight and everything. We saw Dwight, Gabriel, and everything was everyone was getting pretty scared and everything. But then when Negan and his men were out to ambush and kill Rick and his men, all the guns just shot back, because if you put ammo in a wrong way or in a gun, or really bad ammo into a gun, it shoots back or backwards, through the gun, hits the person that's shooting, and that ended up happening. It shot had to have been at least 500 men. At least that's what it made it, they made it look like. They had at least 500 men all around surrounding Rick and his group. And all of a sudden, as soon as all the gunshots went off, all of Negan's men just went down, and all the guns just shot back and killed them all. But what happened to Negan was interesting and everything. It shot back and actually hit Negan's hand. It freaking shot a hole through his hand, which I thought was absolutely insane, because Negan got hurt. He rarely ever gets really a wound. He usually gets kicked or hit or whatever, but he never gets a wound. So he ended up getting a wound and everything, which I thought was absolutely insane. And after he saw, he was okay, what happened? All the bullets are all my men are dead and everything. All the bullets are bad. So obviously he turned into Eugene, his bullet maker and everything, which, as you guys know, this was Eugene's technically he avenged himself and everything, which I thought was really good, because I didn't think they were going to do that at first, but they ended up doing it, which I thought was really good. So obviously Negan sees, looks at Eugene, goes, Eugene, and everything, and starts running at him, but then Gabriel comes out of, nowhere and punches, Negan right in the face, which I don't know how he did, considering that, he's basically, almost blind, and everything starts happening. Rick says now, and everyone starts running up the hill, everyone's shooting, but what's really interesting is, at, near the end and everything, the Saviors start realizing, okay, we lost, 60,000 of our men, not obviously not literally 60,000, but they lost a lot of their freaking men, fighters and army. So then they just give up completely, and they start kneeling in front of Maggie, Michonne, and Jesus and all their group and everything. It's really interesting and everything, because you kind of see how there's all, they all slowly start to fall during the episode. Not obviously the Hilltopians, Alexandrian Kingdom and everything, but you start to see how the Saviors fall and everything during the episode, because they're all realizing, oh fuck, we're making this big mistake. But as all this is going on, as all the Saviors are surrounding and everything, Rick is still running, looking for Negan. He's running around the cars, running around the hill, looking for Negan and everything. But what's really weird and everything is that you don't as soon as Rick turns one car and anything, he sees Negan running down the hill. But what's really interesting about Negan running down the hill is he's running to this one tree with this little glass thing, which, as you guys know, in the first episode of season 8, they showed Rick against the tree saying, "My mercy prevails over thy wrath," with the glass kind of thing with it just looks really cool. And Negan started running down towards that and everything, and Rick started shooting, obviously, missing all of his shots, which I thought was absolutely, insane, because Rick was chasing Negan and everything. We were about to have, another battle, which is what happened. Rick started running after Negan, Rick ran out of ammo, obviously, and started running at Negan, and Negan turned from the tree and punched him. They started having this little brawl near the tree, and obviously, Negan kicked Rick down and everything. He started kicking, the shit out of him and everything, and Rick was, down on the ground wheezing and everything. It's kind of the battle. This is what I was thinking the entire time, when Rick was on the ground, when he was, wheezing and everything, everything. It reminded me of the battle at the prison with the governor, how Rick was like wheezing because the governor strangled him almost to death. But as like Rick was on the ground and everything, he said, let me tell you about what Carl said, how there could be a new future, how everything could be a new start. And Negan's like, no, because obviously Negan, he's just done with everything. He wants to kill them all, kill Rick and everyone. But then Rick says, let me tell you, like, give me some time to tell you about what Carl wanted for the new future. And Negan says you have 10 seconds, which this comes into play in a couple, like, seconds. Is Rick starts, like, going, Carl wanted a new future, he wanted to build everything, and Negan's, like, kind of listening and everything. He's, like, crying, like, which I thought was absolutely, like, crazy, because obviously you guys know Negan never cries. Like, he gets pretty close during, like, the show and everything, but in this episode, he actually started to cry as Rick is telling, like, Negan about Carl's new plan. Obviously, Negan likes Carl, so obviously as he hears about someone who died, named Carl. Sorry if I'm stuttering a lot and everything, this is all insane. But as Rick's telling, like, Negan in the plan and everything, Negan's, like, starting to, like, cry. You see tears start going down his eyes. He's, like, getting, like, all, like, but then eventually, Negan is, like, kind of on the ground and everything, and Rick takes this piece of glass, I don't know from where, and slits Negan's throat, which I thought was absolutely insane, because I was like, wait, like, what? Like, what happened? Because as you guys know, yet again, in the comics, near the end of the war and everything, when Rick was, like, talking to Negan about the new plans of the world and everything, Rick slit Negan's throat and everything, which here's how it yet again goes into the comics a little bit. After Negan slits, like, after Rick slits Negan's throat and everything, Negan's on the ground saying Carl would not have wanted this, whatever, and he's on the ground holding his neck and everything and crying, and then he obviously passes out. And then as soon as Rick turns around and everything, he sees all, like, the surrendered saviors, he sees, like, Maggie and, like, Michonne and everything, and he starts walking towards them and says, save him, which obviously I thought was, like, I knew that was gonna happen. Like, if it was gonna go down that way specifically, I knew Rick was just gonna say, okay, let's save Negan, which did end up happening, luckily, and everything, because I don't feel like it would have gone well if Negan died. I just don't want him to die, personally, for my own reasons. But obviously, Maggie starts having a mental breakdown. She starts crying. She's like, no, Rick, do you remember what he did to Glenn and everyone? She starts crying, saying, no, let's kill him, and, like, Michonne has to hold her back and, like, get her to the ground. And obviously, Rick starts giving his speech and everything about, like, the new beginning. This, like, what Negan wanted and, like, had, it was in the past. This is now. We're gonna make a new world and everything, which he did the speech perfectly. Andrew Lincoln was amazing. Everyone that acted in this episode was amazing. But obviously they load Negan into the truck, so I'm assuming because they didn't show like them loading him in the trucks or anything, they like patch him up and everything. And as soon as they get back to Alexandria and everything, obviously like Negan's on like the ground and everything. And what's funny, like when he's on the ground, he's on like a bed and everything after he like has his like little like surgery stitching up. And Michonne says something that usually I think Rick says in the comics, but he says, I know you're awake, Negan. And Negan's like, yeah, I'm awake. What? And obviously he has like a little patch of like bandage on here and everything because like he just got his like throat slit. And obviously Rick starts saying like, oh yeah, like what you had is gone. This is new. Like everything that you had yet again is gone. It's all like, this is our world now. Carl wanted for everything to change. What then Rick says and Michonne says is freaking like from the comics like perfectly. He says you're gonna rot in jail as we rebuild the new world, which I thought was absolutely amazing because it's like straight from the comics. It's just perfect, 100%. He says you're gonna rot in jail, and obviously Negan is going to, I'm presuming in season 9, like if they do a time jump, he's gonna be inside the cell as maybe Old Man Negan. I'm not 100% sure. So then it cuts to an interesting scene of Dwight and Daryl in the woods and everything, and Dwight and Daryl get out of their car and everything, and Dwight says, I know what this is for, and he starts apologizing for killing Denise and everyone else and turning on them. And he starts getting on the ground on his knees crying and everything, which I started getting emotional for because I was like, oh, okay, is Daryl gonna kill Dwight or what's gonna happen? But then Daryl hands Dwight a necklace and says, you go and you make things right. Now, obviously, like we don't know who he's talking about at first, but then when Dwight picks the necklace, we obviously know it's Sherry. If you guys don't know who Sherry is, that's Dwight's like wife or old wife, or So obviously, like, then it like cuts to Dwight in a car in front of his house and everything, or in front of the house they went to go find Sherry at, and he goes back and there's a new note. Which means Sherry could still be alive around the house, which is like really interesting and everything because it's like could Sherry return season 9, like all that stuff. But then it cuts in like to the final like seconds of the episode and everything with Rick's like he's like kind of like doing what Carl did in the beginning of like last episode where he started like Rick was kind of like saying to Carl and everything, saying, I remember that day when I took you for the walk and everything, and he started mentioning all that. He said, I remember the day I took you for the walk. I'm gonna make everything right. I'm gonna rebuild, and everything's gonna go good, and Negan's like all done, or he's captured and everything, and then at the end he says Rick, or Dad. Now this episode is really emotional. I give it like a 10 out of 10 perfectly. Obviously it would have been 100 out of 10 if Carl obviously survived, but yeah, that was the episode, and I'm not gonna honestly 100% quit on The Walking Dead or anything. Like obviously when season 9 starts up and everything, I'm gonna go, like return to Zombolics, but I'll probably try to like think of some videos if like The Walking Dead releases anything about season 9, which might be soon. I'm not 100% sure. That might be during October or earlier. I'm not sure. But if you guys did enjoy this episode of Zombolics, I will have like a little bit more videos out during the week because something interesting did happen. But I hope you guys did enjoy, and I see you guys all later. Peace on my amigos, and stay walking the dead. That was pretty bad.